Hi, I'm Alice Lee. I'm a holistic psychiatrist practicing in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and I wanted to share with you today my thoughts on depression. I thought about depression in a very specific way based upon my medical training, and over the years as a holistic psychiatrist, as I've integrated more information from functional or orthomolecular medicine, which uses nutritional supplements and other natural products to help people heal, and energy medicine, which actually understands thoughts and emotions and the energies of the body as things that can be healed and also supported. When I integrate those two things over time, I've really changed and shifted my personal understanding of what holistic psychiatry is. As a conventional psychiatrist, I was trained to think of depression in a very specific way, and now as a holistic psychiatrist, I think about depression very differently. And today I wanted to share my understanding of what depression is now for me that is very different from what I was taught as a doctor. As a conventional psychiatrist, I thought of depression as a chronic incurable disorder that has to be treated with antidepressants and maintained over the course of that person's lifetime with a medication, and that the medication was the very best that was out there for intervening and helping someone with their depression. So over time, however, as I've integrated these fields of functional medicine and energy medicine, my understanding of what depression is has evolved tremendously. And I wanted to go over all the different points and share with you how they have changed. So first of all, I wanted to go over, is it incurable? Number 2, is it a brain problem? Number 3, are antidepressants really antidepressants? Number 4, are they the very best form of treatment out there? Number 5, are all other interventions just quackery, just like what medical doctors think? And number 6, do antidepressants just stop working? What's happening there? And why do people have to change from one antidepressant to another after being on it for many years? Okay, so let's start with number 1, which is it really incurable and chronic? Well, as I've integrated more and more fields into my approach for healing depression naturally, my practice has evolved or changed from one where patients come in, they get put on an antidepressant, and they become pretty much patients for many years until they move away, to a practice where it's more like an internal medicine practice where people come in with their problems and then they get better and then they leave and they don't have to call me or come back. So does it mean that I've cured them of their depression? I would say that they still need some kind of nutritional support, but they're doing it in a way that is responsive to actual changes either in the environment or in their own biochemistry that is helpful for them in the long run. Whether it's stress management, whether it's dealing with their nutritional status, whatever it is, they've dealt with these underlying problems in a constructive way, and that's why they don't need to come back and see me anymore. So it's not exactly like I had a magic wand, tap them on the head, and being they're completely cured. They had to learn certain coping mechanisms. They had to watch how to take care of their health. But yeah, I would say that they're pretty good. So it doesn't have to be incurable, and it's definitely not chronic. It can be treated. Number 2, is it a brain problem? Well, if you think about it, antidepressants work on the serotonin system. A lot of the neuroantidepressants do. And 90 to 95% of the neurotransmitters, the serotonin neurotransmitters, are in the gut, in the GI system. So if 90 to 95% of those neurotransmitters and receptors are in the GI system, is it really a brain problem? I hope you don't end up feeling that way about yourself. And that's one of the important things that I want to share to destigmatize depression. That there's something wrong with your character, the way you think, or something wrong with your brain, which we relate to ourselves, that is making us depressed. What I would like people to come away with is a redefinition of what depression is, and that it's a metabolic problem. Sometimes there are many different causes that if you can support the body's innate ability to handle these factors that combine to create a sense of depression, that it can be resolved, and it has nothing to do with your weakness of will, your inability to cope because of who you are innately as a person. Number 3, antidepressants are actually antidepressants. Well, let's say that I have an issue with just naming something and just expecting it to do some magical trick to treat a disorder. So we have in psychiatry many wonderful names. We have antidepressants, anxiolytics, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers. They're beautifully named. But let's say if you have a pill that gives you a great and unmatched wisdom and you take it and all it is a sugar pill, does it really help you? I don't know if it will. And given the fact that depression is not being, resolved, more and more people are depressed now than they ever were before. I would say that there's something wrong with giving this name antidepressant to treat depression if there's a lot of research out there that says ultimately in the long term, antidepressants aren't better than placebo. So what are these antidepressants and what do they actually do? Well, most of them block the reuptake of serotonin. When you do that, serotonin has more time to bind to the next nerve cell. And that is advantageous for you initially. But what happens when serotonin is floating between nerve cells more for longer periods of time is that enzymes can come and destroy them more easily. So over time, the storage levels of serotonin will get depleted. And in fact, Marty Hintz mentioned that with SSRIs, and I said it in another video before, but about 90% of the storage levels in the platelets are completely depleted after 3 weeks. And so not only are you in worse shape after starting an antidepressant, but you become dependent on this medication fairly soon after starting it. So are antidepressants really antidepressants, or are they a medication that does a very specific thing in your body? And should we look at that and examine whether there are other natural, safer ways to intervene rather than just blocking a receptor that your body made for a specific purpose in its great and unmatched wisdom? So let's take a look at some people who are genetically unable to make enough reuptake pumps, serotonin reuptake pumps. What happens to them if you take a medication that blocks more of the reuptake pumps? I don't think they do very well. And there are a certain group of people who, on genetic testing, are exactly that. And they are recommended not to take SSRIs, such as Prozac or Zoloft or Celexa. Moving on to the next point. Antidepressants are the best form of treatment. That's another myth that I had to reevaluate as a holistic psychiatrist. Are antidepressants the best form of treatment? Well, let's take an example. You could be on an antidepressant for life and end up with it not working anymore and having to go through cycles of different antidepressants. Or you could take some nutritional supplements and have better health, not only with depression, but also have benefits in terms of longevity and health in lots of other different areas and never have to go see a doctor again. So which would you prefer as a patient? And which would you say would be the better form of treatment? I would say you would probably pick the second option above the first if you knew that second option was available. But because medicine or the medical field is so powerful and it sends its message out so frequently that nobody can hear the other voices out there that says that there are other options, it's very easy for people to say, yeah, I'm going to take the antidepressant because that's the only way of treatment for my depression. Because antidepressants oftentimes have negative side effects and cause dependency, I would say that it's much better as a psychiatrist to treat your patients in a way that doesn't cause that dependency. So one of the best ways, for example, that a holistic psychiatrist can do just purely on the serotonin system is provide a nutritional supplement that supplies the nutritional supports that can help the person make serotonin. Doesn't that make more sense? You can build more serotonin rather than block the reuptake pumps. And that makes sense to me. But let's go back to, is serotonin really a problem? Well, maybe it is a related or one part of the problem. But what I've learned as a holistic psychiatrist is that depression is multifactorial. There's lots of different causes. It boils down to oxidative stress, which is all about how molecules are recycled in the body, and inflammation, which has a lot to do with toxins and infections. And also, thoughts can cause oxidative stress and inflammation if your thoughts are very negative or your thoughts are filled with fear. So meditation and some of the energy medicine techniques can actually bring down inflammation and oxidative stress. If you ever wonder about the data about that, look at Dr. Herbert Benson at Harvard's research on meditation, and you'll see that there's a tremendous amount of information in their research about the benefits, the health benefits of meditation. All right. Next, all other interventions are just quackery. I heard that in my first day of medical school, where an attending actually stood in front of a whole group of new medical students and said that chiropractors are quacks. And ever since then, I kind of had this thought that everybody else who's holistic were quacks. They're not. They just happen to do things a little bit differently than what medical doctors do, but that doesn't mean that their treatment aren't legitimate. So in medicine, there's this kind of idea or attitude that all other fields and their approaches are just quackery compared to medical professionals who really know the answer and the best treatment for their patients. And as I've moved along in my holistic journey, what I found is that even though other fields might do things differently, it doesn't make their approaches quackery. What other fields do is that they take a different perspective or angle to treatment. For example, functional medicine actually takes the understanding of the biochemistry and the physiology of the body and tries to support the body's innate healing process so that it can resolve whatever the health problem might be. Which, to me, anyways, it doesn't feel like quackery, it's just a different angle towards healing. Energy medicine is coming from the quantum physics understanding of the body, the energies of the body. And just because we can't see the energies in our body doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And people do get very quick results when they intervene using energy medicine. And as far as I'm concerned as a clinician, what I care about is whether the intervention works and can it work without creating a lot of problems for the patient or side effects for the patient. If that intervention is cheap, effective, has no side effects, I'm all about embracing that intervention and being able to integrate it in an effective way in supporting my patient's healing journey. So I would say that given my experience over the course of my holistic journey, that all of these other interventions, as I've learned about it, I could integrate into my practice, and it has really helped my patients to heal faster and to be able to resolve their illnesses with less dependency on medication. My sixth point that I wanted to bring up is, do antidepressants just stop working? What is happening that sometimes patients will be on antidepressants and after a few years it just stops working, and yet when they try to lower the medication they feel even worse? What I would propose is that antidepressants are doing the same thing in your body every time you take it. It goes into your body, it affects the same receptors like it's always done. But what has changed over the years is your own biochemistry and your own body's reaction to the medication. So whether it's inflammation, whether it's detoxification, whether it's untreated underlying causes, when you ignore all of those other aspects and pretend that it doesn't happen, then eventually what will happen is this mysterious thing will happen where your antidepressants stop working. It hasn't actually stopped working. What's happened is that the benefits of the antidepressant is now outweighed by all of its side effects and all of the underlying causes which have been basically ignored over the years. And that in order for depression to really be addressed, one must start with supporting the body's ability to address those underlying causes, support the body's innate ability to heal, and not intervene with a xenobiotic that the body recognizes as a toxin, a foreign substance that can cause more inflammation and more stress for the body. So here are the 6 points that I wanted to cover. Number 1, is depression incurable? No, it's not. Number 2, is it a brain problem? Probably not. Number 3, are antidepressants really antidepressants? Not really. Number 4, are antidepressants the best form of treatment? I don't think so. Number 5, all other interventions are just quackery. I don't agree with that either. And number 6, do antidepressants just stop working? I don't agree with that either. They don't just stop working. What's actually happening are dynamic forces that have been unaddressed over the years. I hope that by explaining this kind of perspective, or my paradigm now as a holistic psychiatrist, that you will come away with greater hope and try to be open to an alternative approach. Think out of the box, find the solution that will really address your depression in a way that makes sense and helps your body to heal in a really fundamental, permanent way. Finally, I just wanted to mention that I plan to present another YouTube next week. I want to cover a topic once a week for you, and I hope you will join me next week. And I have a newsletter that comes out every Tuesday in which I talk about a topic that is of interest to me for the week as well. And I hope you will subscribe to both my YouTube and my newsletter, and I hope that everything will support you in your healing journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.